in studio once again. Cal Filson, scout with the Chicago Blackhawks, used to be with the Seattle Thunderbirds, senior great from the Siemens Wheat Kings back in the day as well. How's it going? You're telling me you've been on the road a ton.
Yeah, it's been a grind since Christmas. Starting on December 27th, I was on the road for 9 straight days, either on the road or at games around here.
Like where would you have to go? Where would you be traveling? Is it like obviously a different place every night?
Pretty much, yeah. I would, I was PA, then the next night I'd be in Lethbridge, and then the next night I'd be here. And then January 1st, I was in Penticton, and then the 2nd, Kelowna, and then the 3rd, Red Deer, and then the 4th, Edmonton. So that's just the grind. That's just the way it goes.
The life of an NHL scout. What's that Penticton thing like? What do they got going on there? They're
actually a really good-looking team right now. For this year, they were able to have 4 20-year-olds, so they're a little older, heavier team.
Right.
And, Fred Harbison did a really good job of bringing in some top-end American kids. And they're a big, heavy, strong team. They're going to be tough out.
Supported. The support is what they thought?
Yeah, it's as far as I know, there's a pretty good crowd there. It was New Year's Day, so you're going to, 4 o'clock game on New Year's Day.
Who were they playing?
That day was Prince George.
Oh.
So probably, they're going to have a pretty good crowd that day, but it looked good.
WHL Trade's the big one so far, unless I missed anything. Somebody jump in. It was Prince Albert, Seattle, and especially Saskatchewan based here with Braden Coots going to the Raiders. You look at the picks that went back the other way, and I started kind of going through. We had Nick Nielsen on yesterday, and then there's some picks and all that. Out of the gate, though, and the guy that's been with it, to get a player, strong player, a little bit of NHL, international experience like that for PA, is it hard to not put everything on the table to get that when you're so close?
It is, and especially a guy like Braden Coots, I know him really well. I drafted him in Seattle, and so I was there, his first couple years with Seattle, so I know him really well. And he's a phenomenal kid. He's an extremely hardworking 200-foot player that's going to put up offense. He can be on your first line. He can play against the other team's best line. He's on your power play. He's on your penalty kill. He's on the ice in the last minute of a tight game, no matter. And he was the captain in Seattle as a 17-year-old, which I've never seen that before. I was in Seattle for 14 years. We never had anything like that. Matt Barzal and some really good players come through there, and no one else did anything like him.
What did you like about him when he was I guess the 14-year-old Coots?
Yeah, he played at the Yale Academy out in BC in Abbotsford, so we saw him a lot at all the big tournaments and showcases that year. And he was then what he ended up being in the WHL. He's he could score. He was one of the top scorers in that CSSHL. He's just really good 200-foot player. He's always on the right side of the puck. Just the kind of guy that you absolutely love. And he'd played minor hockey in the HSL up in Edmonton, and so our owners in Seattle, they knew him from then even, so they knew this kid. So he went way back, so we knew him really well, and it was a great pick.
These CHL, WHL trades at the deadline always surprise me. You always get like big names or for a ton of draft picks. What's the equation that goes into teams that are maybe just going to be maybe make the playoffs to maybe just under? Where does that factor in? Going, do we sell the farm just to get a bunch of picks for the coming years, or do you ride it out?
Yeah, it's tough. So, in Seattle, I was lucky to win 2 championships. The first time, we didn't have to give up much. We never even traded anything beyond. We had all of our first and second round picks, so we didn't really trade anything. That was just straight drafting, and it was a little different then. That was 2017, and then by 2023, when we won again, we traded everything. We got Nolan Allen, we got Colton Dock, we got Dylan Gunther, a ton of guys that have played in the NHL since then, and we gave up a lot, and that was to win the Memorial Cup. I think we knew we had enough to win the league that year, but we wanted to go all in to win the Memorial Cup. And everybody's in a different position, because some guys, it's a business at the end of the day. So if you're kind of close to that playoffs and you want to be able to push your way into the playoffs, or if you have a bunch of young players, it's important for these guys to play a playoff game and play a playoff series, So, you got a bunch of 17-year-olds, so they know what it feels like. They know the nerves, and they know that week of build-up. They know what game one feels like. They know what it feels like to have your season on the line. You're up against it. So, unless you get swept and get beat by 10 goals every game, there's a lot to be learned by just being in the playoffs. So, it depends on the team.
What has surprised you the most this year with the NCAA CHL? Because it's the first year we've kind of gone through this.
It didn't surprise me. It disappointed me how many guys left the Western League. They left good spots to go down there, and now they're not playing a ton. They're not getting a lot of ice. They're not putting up many points. We'll see how that goes moving forward. If more guys are going to, hold on for another year. We have our midseason meetings next week in Chicago, so we're, interviewing players and management and agents, trying to get a little bit more information. And we're hearing that guys, we thought maybe we're going to go next year. Well, maybe they're not so sure. They might hold on one more year. What's the hurry? Like your end game is still the same. You're still going to, hopefully play in the NHL. Nobody's going to the NCAA. I shouldn't say nobody, but not very many people are going to the NCAA to hit the books. They're going there for hockey. And so, but down there, you're not playing as much hockey. You're playing your 30 some games instead of your 68, and you don't have a playoff. You have, a little tournament, and so it's just different.
And I think a lot of people listening, us in the room, we've played hockey. And as a 17, 18-year-old, we probably all played with a guy that, was really good and can transition to play with the older players. 17, 18 to go on to play 23, 24-year-olds, it is still a jump and physicality and strength, puck battles along the boards. I'm sure you see it a lot. It takes a special player to be able to play that NCAA, I would think.
Absolutely. It is a whole different element. Like, it's kind of like the 15-year-olds that play in the Western League. They're big, strong kids for 15-year-olds, but when you're against the 18, 19-year-olds, you get pushed around and pushed off the puck a lot easier. So when you're 18, 19, you can push these, 16, 17-year-olds around, but now you're playing 23, 24-year-olds, and you're the one that gets pushed around, and it's just, it's just easier to stay in the Western League and develop a little bit more.
Do you think, like you said, and are you hearing, because I'm starting to see it too, like I looked at Eli Johnson from Prince George, won with the Pat Canadians last year. I think it's St. Cloud. Now, I don't know if that's a next year thing or if that's maybe 2 years from now that they're playing, but are you hearing that, okay, well, we can commit, but we're maybe going to think about it at 19 or 20, not at 18?
It'll be a two-way street there. They don't want to bring you in and not play you either. It doesn't help them because they want guys to develop. If they leave you in,
you're taking
junior,
a spot.
Yeah, you're taking up a spot. They're giving you scholarship money when they don't have to yet. So they don't want to bring you in any earlier than you're ready, and they want you to be ready when you get there.
Prince George traded Eli Johnson to the V's for a 6th rounder today, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Why would they? He's just because maybe he might be going in a couple of years, or are the V's making a push?
They actually announced they're going to send him down to Junior A as well.
Oh,
so that was there's only been 2 trades announced today, and that was the second one. So I believe his rights are held by Humboldt. But I don't know for sure where he's going to end up. But I just saw that today too, that they traded for him. They're going to send him to Junior A.
Not that I want to put ourselves in spots, but let's play the game here. Jason Ripplinger down the road in Moose Jaw right now with Lakovic. Upper body injury. They said he's kind of out for the year. He's from the interior. I think he's from Kelowna. That's a May tournament, right? I no doctor, don't know anything like that. What's going on there? Would Kelowna be willing to maybe take a future considerations or conditional is what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Deal to maybe roll the dice on that?
I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Put together some sort of deal, and you can have it full of conditions. You can have, you get almost nothing if he never plays, but if he plays, if he's in the Memorial Cup, you get X. If he plays in the playoff, 4th round, 3rd round, whatever, you get something else. You could put something together like that. I'm sure Jason and Bruce Hamilton are talking about, that exact kind of deal. I think the deadline's at 7:00 here in Regina, so I'm sure they got a couple more hours to hammer that out. I'm sure they're talking.
Have you ever come across that back in your days in the Dub though, where you had a player that was a no doubt probably going to get moved, and it was at the tournament's in his home city, and it'd be a two-way street as well. It's great for the Warriors because they're going to bring in stock the cupboards as they say. Kelowna's getting what they want, and then an injury. Like, how devastating. In your 14 years of Seattle, did you guys ever have any like that?
Nothing quite like that. The year we went for it,
you lost a goalie, didn't you, the one year?
Yeah, the year we won, we ended up running through the playoffs with a 16-year-old goalie.
What was his name?
Carl Stankowski. Yeah, he was the one that beat the Pats here in Regina, and then he had a bad back. He ended up playing in Winnipeg when he was his 20-year-old year in the bubble here in Regina, but that was pretty much it for his Western League career. He hardly played past his 16-year-old year. His back was so hurt, and then he got back together when he was 20. It was a different career. But to answer your question, something similar. We traded for Colton Dock in 2023. He got hurt at the World Juniors, hurt his shoulder, and so we traded for his rights. And we knew he'd be back at some point, but he came back, I think, end of February, so a little earlier than what Lakovic would be. But so it was something similar to that, but something not specific where, a guy in your hometown and he's hurt, and nothing quite that specific.
Your years with the Dub, I think I might have asked you this question, in a hockey dressing or whatever, but what year was the draft like? Really stocked, like everybody was on their toes. It was a stacked age group.
My first year full-time scouting was probably the best draft. I thought it was always going to be like that. In the first round, Peyton Krebs, Dylan Cousins, Robertson that plays with the Rangers. There's probably 4 or 5 at least first-round picks that went to the NHL, and I thought it was always going to be that good, and it's not.
What's the 11 from here and from talking to your guys? What's the 2011 year like this year, Western Canada?
I haven't heard as much about it this year. I've heard that at the top end it's really good, and then maybe the depth isn't as good after that. But at the end of the day, they're still going to pick, 230 kids or something like that. So you got to find them and you slot them and figure out where they work. And you never know. Like these kids, that's the thing with drafting 14-year-olds is you do all the homework you can, hoping that you got it figured out. But there's so many kids that end up playing that aren't even drafted, or they're late picks, or that just because they grew later, or they wanted it more than other people. And so you just don't know. But
how do you think the American kids tie in? Obviously, with the NCAA now, Dub teams, are reaping some of the rewards where they're we can explore the WHL now. But at the same side of it, you hear, I don't want to say I know, but you hear like a kid from Dallas, a kid from Los Angeles, that's a higher end player. Parents might be a little reluctant to send them to certain areas of the WHL.
That's always been the case. Some of the, and not just for American kids, but for kids from the Lower Mainland, it was a tough sell getting them to come out here. We had tough sell to get kids from the Lower Mainland just down to Seattle. Sometimes they just want to stay. They're so used to playing in the academies close to home. Like, no, Seattle's too far. Or I don't know what it was. Or we don't want to be in this kind of city. Or so there's always going to be recruiting issues. Doesn't matter what city you're in. But it is tougher for the small market teams for sure, trying to convince these kids to come.
For sure.
So it's always going to be that way.
You kind of touched on the difference between the NCAA game and the CHL game. As a pro scout, do you weigh things differently, or is a skilled kid still a skilled kid?
We're just looking at the traits. Yeah. Like when I go to a game, it can be a bad game. It's ugly. I'm just, at the end of the day, I'm writing down the traits. I'm writing down how do they skate, how do they compete, what's their skill, and what's their hockey sense. That's it. That's what you're looking for. So you want to see guys, and then obviously, there's going to be intangible, like how did they perform in this game, and you got to write that down, and you write down what they did and how the game went. But at the end of the day, you're just looking at the traits.
Text line coming in here. What would WHL get paid to jump to NCAA, i.e. McKenna, $700K? The high end, that like McKenna's the the crazy one-off this year. Will we see it with Maddox Schultz in a couple of years maybe, or Liam Pugh or players like that? There's a lot of kids that are going down. It's just to play NCAA, to have that college, which back when we circle back to this conversation, in my brain, I can't figure out, and even why a parent wouldn't want, it's almost like have your cake and eat it too. Go when you're 20. It's not going anywhere. And then you can go experience that college life, get the papers if that's what you're going for, and then you have the best of both worlds. Why go so early?
I agree 100%. And a reason is the paychecks. 700 has still never been confirmed, but that's kind of the widely rumored number. I didn't hear of one other player even in the 100,000 range. Like all these other kids, they're going for a lot less than people think. And it is just to play against older, bigger, faster, and just get to something different. There is going to be some fear of missing out. The parents are going to have, the kids might have had it. The agents, I hope, will talk sense into the kids and the parents. But if they're determined enough to want to leave, they're going to leave because the agent doesn't want to get fired.
We only got a couple minutes left here, but I got two I want to get to. The first one, I had no idea. And you ever come across the U.S. development team kid and having to basically pay to get him out of that? And I heard it's around $50,000.
Like I said about it's the number I've heard as well. We had a kid in Seattle. He played his 16-year-old year with the development team and then played for us when he was 17. And again, all these things are all hypothetical and rumors, so I don't even know if someone paid the $50,000 to get him out. Sometimes they will just release you if they don't see a path for you either. They'd rather bring someone else into the program.
Or maybe the agent or advisor is going to bring you somebody else. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Those are all distinct possibilities. The hockey world is pretty small, so those people at the top, they know each other pretty well and they help each other out best they can.
Got to ask you about Chicago and Connor Bedard. What a season he's having, not going to the Olympics, but he really it looks like he put in the work, like he said in the offseason. I've been extremely impressed at how the team's done since he got hurt. They started off bad. I think they lost their first 5 or 6 games. Since then, they've been on a tear. Like they beat St. Louis last night 7-3, and they've won every game since the new year. And that just shows, the development that these guys are going through. Big trade today. We traded Nolan Allen, Davidson, Saskatchewan kid, to the San Jose Sharks for. It was kind of a big trade. We traded him and Laurent Brossoit for picks and contracts, and it was kind of a big trade. So hopefully that gives Nolan a chance to actually play hockey. We had him kind of buried in Rockford in the minors, and just because we have so many left shot defensemen that we just needed to make room for him to go play somewhere. Wow.
That's the thing that always confused me or intrigued me, I guess is a better word, is how much like left shot defenseman versus right shot versus who can play center and when they get kicked, like face off specialists. Like how much does that go into building the team as well?
Yeah, pretty much everybody plays center at some point. It feels like there's not many just wingers, especially when you get to those higher levels. Like, as Barney has seen it with his own son, the best players from when they're tiny are playing center because they get to be all over the ice and roam all over the ice, and that kind of just keeps on going as they move up. There aren't too many guys that are just dedicated wingers. So, Connor last year when they had him playing with Frank Nazar, he was playing right wing sometimes. And if he went to the Olympics, he came out this week and outright said that he could be an injury replacement. So if he went there, if someone happened to go down, that he'd play wing, he'd play left wing, he'd play right wing, wherever. And so for us, when we're looking, right shot D-men they're just hard to find. So you are going to be looking for guys like that. But at the end of the day, you like guys that can play both sides, especially those left shot guys that could play on the right side. It is harder just to pick up rings going the wrong way on your backhand. And so it is better if you can have 3 right, 3 left, but it's almost never that way.
Cal Filson with us, scout from Chicago Blackhawks, formerly of the Seattle Thunderbirds. We got to bring you in before the Olympics. This has been great, and I know people love listening to it and picking your brains, so hopefully you're not going too far, and we can bring you back in a couple weeks.
Sounds good.